Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Laura Ingeman, and this is your flash briefing for the week of August 12th. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night, 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Lee Summit Mayor Bill Baird will deliver the State of the City address on August 16th at the Missouri Innovation Campus at 1101 Northwest Innovation Parkway. The Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce is hosting the luncheon, beginning at 11 a.m. with the mayor's address scheduled to start at noon. The State of the City address will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. If you'd like to attend, the event is open to the public. For those wishing to purchase lunch, tickets are available for $30 by contacting the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce at 816-524-2424. Help build a brighter future for Lee Summit. The city is seeking a talented senior staff or staff engineer to join our team, help manage the design of public infrastructure, and collaborate on exciting initiatives that will make an impact on the local level. If you have a passion for civil engineering and public service, this is your chance to shine. Apply today at lspeople.net. And have you checked out the Lee Summit Marketplace recently? Find great items like Lee Summit branded coffee mugs, Tervis tumblers, hats, and more. Show off your Lee Summit pride. Located in the lobby of City Hall, it's open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914 Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here. we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. You know, say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And you know, and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I love where you guys are coming from. You're local and you're all kind of coming together. But where I'm struggling with from the last time that we talked about this, I think it was maybe October.
I actually grew up in my district. We moved here my sophomore year in high school. My parents still live in the same house, and I just went through high school here and then have stayed in Lee Summit ever since. The neighborhood that my parents live in is Canterbury. My favorite thing, and I still do to this day, is I love to go running. They have the best sidewalks. I feel like you can go for days. So now I still get to do that. Since I live not too far from them, I get to use those same routes that I took during high school, and it's just fun. All right, let's see it, Jess. Come on. We're a big soccer family. I love sports, I love to watch sports, and it's even more fun to watch sports when my kids are in it. I coach my middle daughter Josie's team. I have since kindergarten. We do the basketball, we do softball, we're gonna do volleyball, and it's just so much fun. Something that I would like to accomplish while on city council is to get more family activities here. You know, I don't want to have to be driving my family to, say, the Kansas side or any other city but my own. And I want to be able to invest in our city and make family memories in our city.
Open the Public hearing in the matter of K1 Speed, Diventures,
Crack Shack, Blue Jeans Golf.
Councilmember Hodges.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this to Lee Summit. I grew up at this. My grandpa would take us there, so I'm excited that now I can take my kids there.
Bill number 23-0, pre-construction services for the Downtown Market Plaza project.
I'm just as excited as everybody else about the downtown marketplace. I'm extremely excited about the community that it's going to bring, bringing more family things to do to the city and right in the heart of it.
When you presented the numbers, the first time you came to us, it was 25.5%, and then
people were like, oh, being on council, it's not a lot of work, I think it was a bit of a surprise when there's so much info that you realize you just don't know. Even something as simple as sidewalks. It's like you don't realize how much goes into something like that. After a couple months, I'm like, okay, I'm finally, catching the groove of how things work, learning new things, but also feel like I've got some things under my belt as well. It's been a great experience so far.
Order the Monday, August 12, 2024 Public Works Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro.
Here.
Vice Chair Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Rader.
Present.
Righty, thank you. First item is the approval of the agenda.
Chair,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Rader.
Aye.
Next up is public comments. I see all friendly or familiar faces, friendly faces too. Ready? Moving on. First item of business is the approval of July 8th, 2024 Public Works Committee action letter. Looking for a motion.
Chair, I make a motion to approve the July 8th Public Works Committee action letter. Second.
I have a motion and a second approving the July 8th, 2024 Public Works Committee action letter. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Rader.
Oh, aye.
Let the record show Councilmember Carlisle has entered the meeting. Would you like to vote on the committee action letter?
Aye.
Thank you. That's 4 ayes passing the approval of the July 8th, 2024 committee action letter. Do you need a second, Trish?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right, next up, TMP-3076 An Ordinance approving modification number 4 to an agreement dated February 23rd, 2021 for professional engineering services for the East Fork of the Little Blue Watershed Stormwater Improvement Project between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Allgeier Martin and Associates for an increase of $46,612 for an amended basic services with an amended amount of $975,212 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Good evening. George Binger, City Engineer. I'm presenting on behalf of Karen this evening. This project is on, it's near Todd George and 3rd Street. There's several homes that have had structural flooding, so this is in part of that stormwater flood mitigation program. And one of the things with the design, there's several utilities along 3rd Street, and of course it's based on initial information survey, GIS data, and things of that nature. And so after conducting potholing, because there are it is fairly close to the water main. There was some potholing was done, and it showed that the storm line would have been in conflict with that water main based on the depths and the actual location. So based on that information, we had to do some rework on the design, had to reroute the storm sewer, as well as to avoid, there's several conflicts with gas and other utilities that would have either pushed those under the road or into somebody's yard. So the idea, if we take the storm line, we can leave more of the water line in place, the gas line in place, which will speed up the project. And this has grant money associated with it as well, so time is a factor. And this puts that pipe that's not pressurized will be under the pavement with the storm line. So that's the purpose of this design modification.
Any questions from the council? All right, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you. So I think we talked about this one before, did we not? Did it come before us before in the last couple of meetings or not? Okay, it's sounding familiar. Anyway, my question was just, and this is because I'm just don't know, but the extra money that was for the increase, is that because this was started in 21? What's the reason for the increase?
The increase is because this work was not in the original scope of services. So with the consulting firm, we had, within the scope, lay out and identify utility conflicts, and then we have the optional service to go in there and pothole if we think there's an issue. And so we'd already gone through the process of laying it out. We were close to final plans, and then when we do the potholing, now we're having to go back and kind of redo what had already been done. And so that's kind of an extra, it's kind of like doing the same thing twice, and so that's why it's additional effort on this part because of the actual, because a lot of times these are laid out based on what we know from the ground survey where the utilities will paint mark the grounds, and then what we have on our GIS data, but that doesn't get us that third dimension of depth, and so when we go out and do the pothole, now we find out there's depth, could be an issue based on the size and location of the storm pipe.
Okay, thank you, George. And then the time frame here. So why did it take so long to do it? Was it just because of the study or the money or?
The time is just that, yeah, this particular design work, it's been fairly lengthy because we're almost at the end of our right-of-way acquisition, so we were working through that phase first. And so that's where we get the easements and the right-of-way on this project, because that may influence the design a little bit as far as how much easement we need or how much, maybe of a driveway we're going to replace. And so we're trying to work through that issue, because normally we like to work through that before we go to final design, because if we have comments, like if there's an agreement where it's like preserve this piece of landscaping or extend the driveway removal, we want to get those notes or comments going from our preliminary plan to our final plan.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll look for a motion then.
Chair,
Yes, Councilmember.
I move to approve TMP-3076, an ordinance approving modification number 4 to an agreement dated February 23rd, 2021 for professional engineering services for the East Fork of Little Blue Watershed River Stormwater Improvement Project sole source between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Allgeier, Martin and Associates, Inc. for an increase of $46,612 for the amended basic services with an amended amount of $975,212 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same. I move for approval. I don't know if I said that. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second for TMP-3076 moving to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
All right, thank you. The motion passes. Moving on, TMP-3071 An Ordinance, awarding the bid for project number 816 for the Crack Seal FY25 Program to Pavement Management, LLC, in the amount of $297,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Vince Mager.
Ben Schmager, project manager. Yes, this project is the annual Crack Seal program. We will, it seals the cracks along asphalt, approximately a 1/4 inch wide and wider. These are, if you're driving down the road, you see the black lines that go kind of weird angles across the road. That's what this project is. This project will seal approximately 52 miles of roadway, and it's funded through the transportation sales tax. We received 3 bids on this, and Pavement Maintenance LLC was judged to be the lowest and the best bid for this project. Crack sealing, it's, in a way, it's like the caulking around your house, whether it's in the bathroom, around your kitchen sink. You're trying to keep the water from actually seeping from the top down to the subgrade, because you're trying to stabilize the moisture levels in that subgrade. So whether it's evaporating and drying up through those cracks, or the rain's coming in and making the ground soft. So with that, answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? I do have. What is the what's the estimated benefit? What in years? It's probably in years to do the crack seal. How much does that prevent an actual pavement overlay?
We're seeing 3 to 5 years minimum out of what the crack seals, but majority of these places in 3 to 4 years after it's applied, we're coming back with the micro-surfacing or surface seal project on top of them to help with the UV degradation on the surface of the asphalt. It's kind of a 2-step process.
Yeah. Thank you, Vince. Any other questions? Look for a motion then.
Chair, I move to council for approval TMP-3071 An Ordinance awarding the bid for project number 816 for the Crack Seal FY25 Program to Pavement Management LLC in the amount of $297,000 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Moving TMP-3071, the full council with a recommendation of approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, TMP-3072 An Ordinance authorizing the approval of a sole source agreement to the purchase of the JWC Environmental Channel Monster grinder system in the amount of $249,223 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same. Michael Riley.
Good afternoon, Michael Riley, Operations and Maintenance Manager for the water utility. I'm bringing forward today for your consideration an ordinance authorizing the approval of a sole source agreement with JWC Environmental for the purchase of a channel grinder system at our to be installed at our Tudor Road pump station. The current grinder is at the end of its useful life, and in March of 2024, we did a facility plan which was completed by HDR Engineering, and that included an evaluation of different types of grinders for that facility. And in this plan, the JWC Environmental Channel Monster grinder system was determined to be the best fit for our design conditions. Other channel grinders would require some additional features added to the facility to match the capability of the JWC unit. That therefore would increase engineering costs, labor, and material. The funds to purchase were approved under the FY25 Capital Improvement Plan and funded through the Utilities Equipment Replacement Fund. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Rader.
Thank you, Chair. How long do these grinders last typically?
Well, not near as long as they used to.
Yeah.
If you ever saw one, when we take it out of service, these things are really getting hit by wipes, which is the major concern. As much as we preach that these things can't go down the toilet, they do it anyway. And so that's the main concern, is getting these things ground up so they can pass through our pumps. But the average lifespan is about 10 years. Yeah. It's not too long.
Everybody needs to quit with the wipes.
That would be helpful, yes.
We've had that problem before in our sewers too. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Michael, will this be a parallel switch out, or will the pumping station have to go down to install this one?
No, great question. Actually, we can pull it out and install the new one without ever having to shut down the station, so.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes, Councilmember.
I would make a motion to move TMP-3072 to full council with the recommendation of approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, moving TMP-3072 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Next up, TMP-3073, an ordinance approving the agreements for the purchase of traffic signal equipment from Iteris Incorporated and Gades Sales Company, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Susan Berry.
Good evening. Susan Berry, City Traffic Engineer. I'm here tonight for approval of two agreements for the purchase of traffic signal equipment from Iteris and Gades. These are two of our main suppliers that provide us with traffic signal components. The way the signal industry works, only certain suppliers can sell a certain product in a certain territory. So we did bid this out last year, and we awarded to both companies that were low bid on certain items. And so due to inflation and the need to try to keep continuing to improve our infrastructure in the traffic signal realm, we would like the ability to have this approved by council to give us the opportunity, if budget allows, to exceed the $75,000 cap per vendor per year. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council members? None, I'd entertain a motion.
Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Rader.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve to recommend to go to full council for approval, TMP-3073.
All right, I have a motion and a second, moving TMP-3073 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Was that second, Councilman? Okay, thank you.
Trish, yeah.
All right. Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
The motion passes. Next up, TMP-3075, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an amendment to the agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Titan Built, LLC, to set a guaranteed maximum price, one, for the police court's Phase 2 renovations project in the amount of $1,398,615 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same. Sharon Bloom.
Yep, Sharon Bloom, CBS. So this is an early package for this project, and the reason we're asking for it now is we would like to get the new mechanical units placed before it's the middle of winter, basically. So we went out early for mechanical, electrical, and just a little bit of other stuff for early procurement package. So this will be the first of the GMPs for the renovation. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. We have any questions? And I noticed HVAC is the major part of this.
It is,
yeah.
Yes.
Everything else kind of just falls by the wayside, yeah. All right, seeing no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Chair.
Yes,
Well, I have a question. Would
Oh,
you
I'm sorry.
prefer us to read it or no? Does it really matter? Because I've always been told reading it, but. Like the ordinance, yeah, to read the whole ordinance before we.
I would say, in order to follow the current form that we use, yes, just to read the current ordinance with the recommendation for approval or whatever the recommendation would be.
Okay.
The full ordinance
Just the title part of it, or, I mean, that's just the normal way we do it, is to read the ordinance itself with the recommendation that you put in the title itself.
So do I read this right here, this whole thing? Okay. Okay, I just wanted, be easier not to, but I'll do the,
Yeah, I mean, I always read it, and that
Okay.
way, if the public is, you know, I get it out there at least once, and then if we do it twice, that's fine too. I mean, it doesn't matter. I always do it, that way the
Yeah.
public is watching, listening. Yeah, they know.
Okay.
Mhm.
okay. Now let's see if I remember where we were.
3075.
Yeah, I move to council for approval, TMP-3075, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an amendment to the agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Titan Built LLC to set guaranteed maximum price 1, also GMP 1, for police courts Phase 2 renovations project in the amount of $1,398,615 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to move TMP 3075 to full council with a recommendation of approval. Don't know who seconded it first. Okay, all right, there we go. You're right on top of it. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, TMP 3078, an ordinance authorizing Amendment 1 to the agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and WSKF for an amount not to exceed $27,650 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same. Sharon Bloom.
Yes, this is an amendment to the agreement that we already have with the architects and engineers for Fire Station 1 to do a little bit more study for us. We already did the study where we looked at the building in its current location, and we decided that it would not be great to try to reuse that same building. So we've done that part, but now we're thinking, well, maybe there are other places downtown that we could look at for this building that would function better. The site's very small and constrained there. So all this tells us is that we could ask the architect and engineer to look at 2, possibly 3 other sites for us. Just do a quick site study. And I don't have the exact locations, but it's limited to 2 or 3.
Okay. Questions from the council? Okay, thank you. Motion, please.
Thank you. I recommend to move to full council for approval TMP-3078, an ordinance authorizing Amendment 1 to the agreement between the City of Lee Summit and WSKF for an amount not to exceed $27,650 and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, moving TMP 3078 to full council with a recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMauro,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor,
Aye.
Councilmember Rader,
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, TMP 3085, an ordinance approving the right-of-way entry agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the United States Army Corps of Engineers to enter upon property for survey and exploration and authorizing the mayor to execute the same. Mr. Binger.
Good evening, George Binger, City Engineer. This request is the right of entry agreement. It's for the Little Blue River Watershed study that's being conducted by the Corps of Engineers and partnership with Mid-America Regional Council and several other local agencies. The purpose of this is the last study was done in the Little Blue River in 1968, and that's what led to the development of Longview Lake, Blue Springs Lake, and the levees along the Little Blue River. So since that time, the watershed has changed, and so this is to update that. And the idea coming out of this would be kind of a master plan potential projects for flood risk management, as well as the term they're using is ecosystem restoration, which basically conservation, preservation of existing streams. So within the city, there were several of the watersheds, Mouse Creek, Cedar Creek, Prairie Lee Lake watersheds are part of this study because they lie within that. So in order to do that, Corps of Engineers staff, mainly like some of the surveyors, biologists, environmental specialists, engineers, want to get on property so they can actually walk the land, see it, observe. Maybe, in some cases there may be some topographic survey work. So they're pursuing these agreements with all the private property owners. This agreement is specifically for property that's owned by the city or our Parks Department. And so that's the request. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We have any questions from Councilmember Pryor?
Okay, so I know this is probably a really silly question, but do you think there's any possibility after this whole study's done that we might end up with another lake?
Well, that's hard to say because I don't think what I've seen on the concepts for the flood risk mitigation is more things like maybe a large basin, like a watershed basin. It would not be nearly as large as Longview Lake, the ones that have been initially proposed. It wouldn't be of that nature. It'd be more like either a retention pond, which is just a detention basin that holds water all the time. Some of them may be dry basins. So that's what I've seen on the flood risk side. A lot of it too is looking at establishing more like stream buffers, basically a safe area to allow the stream to move and do what it's going to do naturally and not try to encroach on that with development. There's a couple places they've talked about possibly raising the height of levees in some areas. Now, again, this is in the whole watershed, so this extends up to the mouth of the Missouri River. But those are some of the things that have been proposed thus far.
Okay, thank you.
Remind us again, George, the scope starts at the Missouri River, right, and comes down?
Correct. It's the entire Little Blue watershed, so I know Grandview is, I think, the furthest south end. Actually, Belton has a little bit of the watershed in it as well. So Belton and Grandview is the southern end, and a lot of it's kind of broken up into three main phases. It's Longview Lake south, and the middle stem is like Longview up to somewhere like in Independence, and then you have the north part where you get into like Sibley and the mouth of the river, Fort Osage area.
So it follows the Blue River from the Missouri River to, what is that, Turkey Creek? Actually goes into Kansas, yeah.
Yeah, there's one of the watersheds I recall in the study is in Grandview or Belton was one of the creeks that they were looking at.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Chair,
Councilmember.
I would move to the full council with recommendation of approval. TMP-3085, an ordinance approving a right-of-way agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the United States Army Corps of Engineers to enter upon property for survey and exploration and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second moving TMP-3085 to the full council with recommendation of approval. Seeing no discussion on the motion, roll call, please.
Chairman DeMoro?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Councilmember Carlisle?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next up, roundtable. Any roundtable folks? Any folks roundtable? Go ahead, Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. This is regarding an email that I think most of us received. Let me look at the street name. Southwest Granite Lane. What's the plan with that, or do we know where the water's coming from, or why it is consistently there?
We need to look into a little more further. I'm just now catching up on some of those correspondence, but what's happened, we have our mill and overlay program that is addressing Granite Lane right now. Prior to that, there had been complaints about water percolating up through the pavement or adjacent areas. I know residents believe that perhaps there's like a water line break. I believe there's been multiple tests and yet have been able to identify any chlorination of the water, so that leads us to believe it's not a water line break. Though I'm sure we'll reach back out to the Water Utilities Department, do further investigation. It's our belief it may be more like a natural spring. And if it requires total road reconstruction, that's not within the budget at this time, so we'll be looking for other solutions. And I just encourage those residents, and we have received numerous service requests most recently about that because of the mill and overlay work that's occurring, is to reach out to Public Works Department and or Water Utilities Department if they believe they have a water line leak, for us to investigate further and try to refrain from engaging directly with the city's contractors. That's how we get misinformation. Because the contractors don't necessarily know exactly what the causation or how long this has been a problem or what the solution may be that the city's going to take in action. So,
Okay, thank you very much. And so I know that this question, we've gotten this question too. Has the water been tested and it's safe to drink? There was some concern that maybe their water wasn't safe to drink.
I have no reason to believe it's unsafe to drink, and this would be really a question for our Water Utilities Department. I know previously they have tested the leak and not found chlorine. And again, that's one of the first tests you do to see if there is a water break somewhere nearby, and it has not tested positive as a water break.
Hello, Mr. Thorne.
Good evening, Jeff Thorne, Deputy Director in Lee Summit Water. The water from their tap is completely safe to drink. Don't drink it from the gutter. I just found out about this evening, so I've hit up our operations group. I know that this has been kind of a long time thing. My understanding is we've had some folks out there, we test for chlorine and that kind of stuff that we put into the water to know if it's coming out of our system. And at the times we've tested, it's been negative. That said, we have some new leak correlation equipment, stuff like that we may put into the system there just to double check some things.
Okay, thank you so
You
much.
betcha.
Any other roundtable? Mr. Park, could you give us a brief summary of what you know about the Colburn Road project in front of the Mid-Continent Library and, of course, the Rice Road, the new Rice Road?
Absolutely, Chairman DeMoro. I'm aware that there's work occurring up on Colburn Road in the vicinity of Rice Road and the new library, and questions about what does that project schedule look like. First of all, that project is being managed and administered by a developer and developers contractors in association with a development on the north side of Colburn Road between Rice Road and the library that the City Council approved. It's probably a year ago. I don't know exact dates. So that really the schedule of carrying out that work is the developer's schedule when they find at the right time to do that and perform those conditions. Essentially, I'll try to summarize the work that's happening. They're installing some turn lanes. They're installing a new intersection just to the west of the library that will be traffic signal controlled with pedestrian crossings and sidewalks in that vicinity, along with medians that's going to change how those adjacent intersections and driveways are all accessed. All those properties will retain access to some degree, and over at the existing Rice Road, because it's so approximately close to the interchange there at 291, it couldn't support a traffic signal, which is necessary for this development and continued development north of Colburn Road. I believe the development was a convenience store and potentially some other commercial services. And so they will be doing some access controls over at existing Rice Road, create better separation of those intersections. And while access controlled for you and I as traveling public, the emergency services that are dispatched out of the fire station just to the north along Rice Road will not be impeded. So they will have access, and hopefully people pay attention to the restrictions by signage and the little lower profile median in that area and not try to do left turns where they're not supposed to do left turns illegally. But that's generally the scope of the work. And they do need to have those improvements done before they could open any convenience store, or part of that development was the conditions of its approval.
All right, thank you, thank you. Any roundtable from staff?
None this evening, thank you, sir.
I didn't look ahead to when our next meeting is, but it should be the 9th, I think, October 9th. September 9th, yes. Yeah, no, we're going to have a month of September. September 9th. I did, yeah. Okay. Well,
Christmas stuff today.
Seeing no other discussion, then I will adjourn this meeting at 5:05. Thank you.